This is one I've really been looking forward to. I was so interested in this watch that I made the effort and contacted Serica rather than them contacting me. I don't know how to put this, but I'm kind of a big deal. But Serica had never heard of me, so already we see that Serica has excellent taste and proper priorities. For people familiar with the standard design language of watches, there's a lot to be curious about with this 8315 GMT. Nearly everywhere you look on this watch, it's, oh, wait, what? Huh. And as someone who gets easily bored with watches and design, the oddities of this piece got me interested. Kind of like how my oddities got my wife interested in me. But in both cases, what happens when we look closely? Do we find a keeper or a cause for buyer's remorse? Love you, honey. Let's start with the facts. The Serica 8315 GMT is 39mm in diameter, 12.3mm thick, and 46.5 millimeters long. It has 20mm lugs and a water resistance of 200 meters. It has a sapphire crystal, a ceramic bezel insert, and it comes on this black leather strap. One of those unusual features about this specific watch is the left-hand crown, but not all of these GMTs have a left crown. It's actually an option that Serica offers on its watches. A 9 o'clock crown or a 3 o'clock crown. Sorry, no 10 o'clock, 2 o'clock, or 4:20, bro. The watch sells for €1,575. At the moment, that's about $1,670 American greenbacks, dead presidents. Patriot points, if you will, which I won't. My wrist is 7 inches around, and this 39mm case just, perfect. I'd happily wear a larger version of this watch, but I cannot argue with this size. I think it's ideal for this watch, for its design, and I think for who it's for. Skinny-wristed nerds. Love you guys. The black leather strap that the watch comes with is really comfortable and matches the vintage style, but you know how I do. Mesh, Perlon. I'm not a one-strap guy, baby. Now, I don't know where these straps came from, but even if I did, they're not special enough to recommend. The movement in this watch is the Soprod C125, and it's certified as a chronometer by COSC, so it'll be accurate to at least -4 to +6 seconds per day. And it's cool, each watch comes with the COSC certificate and the timings for this specific movement. There are very few mechanical COSC chronometer watches for under $2,000. Formex comes to mind, but if you know some others, put them in the comments. The Soprod C125 is a collar GMT. That means that the GMT hour hand is independently adjustable. That's opposed to something like a Rolex GMT, where the local hour hand is independent. What's best for you really depends on your lifestyle. Are you more likely to be traveling between time zones, or more likely tracking a second time zone from home? So if the latter, the collar GMT movement might suit you best. Soprod movements are becoming popular as an alternative to ETA and Solita movements. Now, I'm not a watchmaker, so I can't really teach you much about Soprods, but I do think it's telling that these can be COSC certified in large quantities. That kind of tells me that they are finely adjustable and probably reliable. But of course, what got me looking at this watch is its design. There's a lot going on here, so let's take it one element at a time. The crown I've talked about. It's a lefty, but you can choose a righty. The next thing, and maybe the most obvious thing, is the bezel. At first it looks like a standard rotating 24-hour bezel, but then it's split into two halves. And then those aren't equal halves. And hold on, it's not a 24-hour bezel at all. But wait, there's more. Each half is 12 hours. The two 12-hour halves, that's really what got me interested in this watch. The vast majority of GMT watches use 24-hour bezels. The GMT hand makes one full rotation every 24 hours, and you use the bezel to read the time on a 24-hour scale. But I wasn't in the military, and I'm not a milsim LARPer, with all due respect, which is not much. My inelastic American-made brain thinks of time on a 12-hour scale with AM and PM, just as God intended. So most GMT watches, they take some mental processing for me to read. But this makes so much sense to me. It's a 24-hour GMT hand, but the bezel is split into AM and PM. I love it. This has been so refreshingly easy for me to read. It's weird that I have never seen this before. Or it turns out I have, I just didn't know it. A big thanks to Mr. Ace K, who makes awesome videos. He alerted me to the fact that some vintage Bulova astronauts use this same type of bezel, and the re-release does too. So more of this please. And you probably noticed that the bezel is not split evenly. Serica designed it so that the PM has a larger portion of the bezel. They say that it's so your daytime is longer than your nighttime. Okay, I think maybe it's just too difficult to split the 6 with the 2 colors of ceramic. I don't know. The bezel uses an unusual combination of friction and clicks. You can turn it to any degree you want, but there are clicks. It just doesn't lock into those clicks, and I'm not really into it. I prefer a bezel that locks into place better. The GMT hand is also a bit unusual, a lollipop-style GMT hand. My concern from photos was that I'd confuse the GMT hand for the seconds hand, since seconds hands are usually the ones that have the lollipop style. But on the wrist, no issue at all. One hand is perceptibly moving and one hand is not. Easy sleazy. Now, I'm not wild about the color of the GMT hand. I interpret it as fake vintage patina. I like that it's a different color from the other hands, but I think it would be cool as red or a saturated orange. That might be better for me. And similar with a lot of the design, I'm not so much into vintage styles. The broad arrow hand, not my favorite. No legibility problem here, but it's just not for me. And similarly with the dial markers. My preference is that they were moved a little farther from the center of the dial, but I do appreciate how the round markers are aligned with the inner edge of the rectangular markers. Someone at Serica is sweating the small stuff. And someone at Serica has a lot of confidence too. This is a sterile dial. That means there is no brand logo or word mark. The brand prioritized aesthetics over marketing, and that's not something you see very often on Your Terrific, your best #1 source for watches, or Logical Video's top very best good watches. So props to Serica. And another thing that's missing from the dial is the date. That's a very rare absence for a GMT watch. In fact, I can only think of a couple like this. The Boulder Venture GMT and the Nomos World Time, which isn't actually a GMT watch. The case of the 8315 is very elegant, fine brushing along the case sides, and a nice polish on the wide lug chamfer. These edges are crisp and clean, really nicely executed. And it makes me wonder about something that viewer Josh asked me. Why are these watches so affordable? Well, okay, first, $1,700 isn't affordable for functionality that can be had for $15. I wish my friends would stop telling me that. Just kidding, I don't have any friends. But for a COSC-certified 200-meter ceramic bezel GMT with this kind of finishing, $1,700 does seem pretty cheap. The Formex Reef GMT is close, also with a ceramic bezel, also with a chronometer movement, also a GMT, and the cheapest configuration of that watch is $1,800. To try to answer Josh's question, my guess is improvements in technology, ceramic is cheaper than ever, machined finishing is cheaper than ever, even the software used to design watches like this is cheaper and definitely better than it used to be. But it's true, not many watches at this price look this good to my eyes. There are the specs, there's the finishing, and there's also the creativity to do a watch like this, and I'm into it. Now, it's not perfect for me. Almost nothing is. Again, love you, honey. But I think it really works, and I think this is Serica's best watch yet. And I hope the brand is just getting started.